pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. Yeah, so this is episode 1 of the Dirty Pretty Things featuring me, Ms MAE. It's been a while, and I said, I should try to vent and express some of the things that I have observed recently, and at the same time upgrade my multimedia offering by finally moving into the podcast space. And I have seen and known of people that I have networked with or that are known to me personally over the years who have definitely been promoting regularly this podcast format. And after being on the radio for a short, what should we say, a short season some years ago, and having that platform having been taken down, it would feel kind of appropriate to get into this space as a way of still having some level of interactions with this. But the Dirty Pretty Things is really a podcast that I want to create now in this space about those dirty things that we don't really want to talk about, or those things that are in your mind that you really would need to talk about or vent with someone if you could find a good therapist maybe, or a good friend willing to really listen, which is hard to find nowadays. So I know I'm not the only one who's had some experiences, especially within interpersonal relations, within the dating, if we can call it dating scene anymore, about those dirty, pretty things that somebody has whispered in your ear in a club that you really didn't want to hear, or something that they said to you even in the bedroom, or something that just shouldn't have been, like these dating faux pas, if I may use a posh word, or these things that you really shouldn't say, but too often you hear them, and it tends to be repeated that there are more than one person who are, it's become like commonplace and popular to make these type of mistakes now. But there are things that you kind of want to say but you can't really talk about, or you feel like you can't talk about but you'd want to talk about, or maybe if you talk about it they wouldn't even listen or respond, and it would be like a wasted opportunity to relate on a reel. So I'm thinking these dirty, pretty things, I have some of them in my mind, and I really need to find a space to vent these things now, because there are some things that are becoming far too commonplace and popular. Like, it's like it's acceptable, but it's not acceptable. And we know it's not acceptable. So yeah, this is introduction to the dirty, pretty things, where we really are able to talk about those things that are maybe taboo, although there isn't much taboo now, because people don't seem to be shocked by anything, but there are still some things that people don't really want to express or expose or talk about. But some of us, I can only speak for myself as a female, as some of the ladies don't really want to talk certain things or really out them, or really say it for fear sometime of reprisal, because you have some ones that are so spiteful, both men and women, that they don't really like, you say something to them one time that they don't like or they don't want to hear, and it's like the biggest thing ever for them to just accept that somebody said something they didn't like. So a lot of the time people are biting their tongue and not saying anything, because no one wants to be in a situation where they're like courting danger. Is another old school term for dating. Courting danger, literally, where you're expressing yourself and a person take it so offensively that they would not want to do things that are so extreme that we wouldn't even want to mention it in this podcast. We wouldn't want to encourage them. But yeah, Dirty Pretty Things, episode 1, soon forward. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. Yeah, so what are some of these dirty, pretty things that we have heard or have experienced in the arena, if we can call it the arena, because it seemed like an arena sometimes. It seemed like gladiator, like a war going on between the sexes now. Worse, you have some people who want to be pansexual and all kinds of things, and that's a different podcast, because I'm not trying to get into people's different type of identity of gender and sexual preferences in this podcast. This particular podcast, I'm speaking as a straight female, which I feel like right now is starting to become more and more of a minority. And I'm talking about my experiences within the dating arena when it comes to men and women, and how men and women have become so aggressive right now, and a lot of things are just forced interactions and calculated gestures. And so I'm thinking of some of these dirty, pretty things that I have experienced over the years. And I mean, I've been through all kinds of things, having worked in entertainment for many years. You meet all kinds of people, especially people who are drinking and intoxicated, and they are maybe not so brave usually, but now they're feeling brave. They want to say all kinds of things that, I wish that they had have just let me know when they were sober. That I could believe them when they wanted to say something to me, because oftentimes when people are drinking, you're not really sure if they're just looking for somebody to, play with or use for the night, and most times when people want something, I find most people don't think they can be honest and get what they want in life. So let's face it, you really, we've all seen it in the movies, and most of us, if we would admit it, have been through some personal experience of being out, enjoying yourself a bit too much, and overindulgent will occur. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things. So when these overindulgent moments occur, what is it that people have heard that has made them retract, sometimes even so much so that they think twice about social interactions and going out? Almost like people have become more reclusive and not so interested in even trying anymore, because they've had so many bad experiences. And when people have more and more bad experiences, they become more inhibited. I think the word is inhibited. And my question really today for this first episode of Dirty Pretty Things, because this is also about not only airing some of my experiences and getting some things off my chest that I haven't been able to really speak about, that I don't want to hold inside of me and allow to make me feel that way, uninhibited and afraid of interacting with people for, fear of more disappointment. Because nobody likes to be disappointed over and over again, and it will have an effect on your conscience, no matter how positive a person you are. So one of the things I want to mention that I thought of when I was thinking about creating this podcast this week is, when you first meet somebody, let's start right from the beginning, because it's important to get the boundaries clear from the start. When you first meet someone and you're just introducing yourself, or you're just talking to them, first impressions matter, as they say. So, you have all kinds of approaches, and I wonder if I could just get some people to, feed forward or feedback, or provide some greater insight into some of the things, the worst things that they've heard said to them in a club, in a situation where someone may have been intoxicated, where they were trying to register their interest, I remember a joke I had with some security where I used to work in a club many years ago, and how they tend to try to look somebody in Jamaica, as they would say, or tell somebody that they like them or they want them or they're attracted to them. How some people do that, and the kind of mistakes that they've made where they've really actually offended someone they might not be willing to really listen to. But I think if they were to be willing to consider some constructive criticism, might help them, because at the end of the day, people want to be successful, right? Most men will want to be successful in their attempts to attract the opposite sex. Most women will want to be successful in finding the right mate or the right companion to share, company good with, and good company with, and good times with. So that means if we want to be more successful, then we need to put aside, sort the wheat from the chaff, and put aside those things that are definitely, most people in our research would say they didn't like this, because there are all different types of people, and let's face it, not everybody's going to like the same thing, but there are some things that definitely most people would say, no, that is wrong. You know, some things are just wrong. Some things are just not acceptable by most people's standards. So let's try and identify some of those things. What I want to talk about is when you first meet someone and you get past the first initial meeting and they introduce themselves and they decide they want to buy you a gift. One of my first impressions when I was thinking about this is when a man really does make an effort and he buys you a gift to show you that he's interested in you, or he gets you a gift from, because sometimes you have to wonder when you see the gift and the way it's presented, if they actually got this gift from somewhere, if they, you know, took it from someone else, or how, you know, how it is presented is important. And I remember a friend of mine that always used to say that, you know, buying a nice bag for a present, or wrapping it up, or putting it into some kind of, you know, depending on packaging, depending on what it is, that is an important part of how you present the gift as well. Because if you just come with a piece of jewelry, the jewelry might look nice, but when it doesn't look like it was bought in a store with a box, you might also be suspicious. And that is not being overcritical or hypercritical or being demanding. It's just the reality that you have all kinds of people. And when you just met somebody, if they present you with something in such a fashion that it looks like it might not even be that they bought it in a store, did they steal this? Is this a good impression? Depending on the type of man you want. You know, you have women out there, enough of them will have this bad man thing, but if you're going to be with this bad man, are you going to also accept stolen gifts? All kinds of things. I had an experience where I met somebody, and this one was while I was overseas. Two experiences, one overseas and one here. I met somebody, I didn't know them very well. We were just, you know, sharing a meal, and we lived in a similar area. And next thing you know, he started to, you know, really try to pressure me to want to come and stay with him and get involved with him intimately, which, you know, some men are like that. Some men will get to know you for a while, and some of them will be very pushy from the outset. And this man presented me with a pair of red panties, you know, red panties, which I didn't even find it amusing, and yet I was so shocked. I should have just handed them straight back. But I can tell you something, I didn't think it was appropriate, and I never wore the red panties because I didn't even, it just wasn't appropriate. So I am making it clear on this particular first episode of Dirty Pretty Things that we are talking about, to make it clear, things that you shouldn't do or say when you first meet someone and you're trying to, you know, actually show them that you're attracted to them and you want to get a positive response from them. Things that you shouldn't say. And when you're first meeting someone and you're just getting to know them, and maybe just going out on the first day, or just sharing the first lunch together, or whatever it is, or a cup of tea or a drink, these are things that you shouldn't do. And gifts, how to present a gift, how to present yourself in a way that you actually are showing this woman or a man, even if it's a female buying for a man, that this is someone that you care about, that you find attractive, that you know, want to impress, even maybe, you know, with this gift. You're trying to even not impress them, you're trying to create a certain impression, and you want to create a positive, a good impression. So I also had an experience here in this country where I know this person, and I know that they found me attractive, and they have been trying to, you know, give me that kind of talk for quite some, you know, a good while. We'd known each other, but I was involved with someone else, and they were involved with someone else. And then when the opportunity came up and we met, and we were both single, he presented me not in a gift box or in a gift bag, but with this underwear that looked like it was kind of like honeymoon night or wedding night type of underwear, but a little bit too raunchy for wedding night, but could be possibly pink and bows, and it was just too much. And I was just looking at it, and it was actually a special day. It was around Christmas time, and it was just, you know, coming up between Christmas and my birthday, and it was just completely and totally inappropriate. It was so inappropriate that I was almost speechless. And I am not somebody who, as you can probably tell from listening to this short introduction, I'm not somebody who is often lost for words, and I was lost for words. And I do believe, and this is why I'm needing to vent this right now, that was completely inappropriate. I don't even know where that came from. And sometimes I can be quite, I'm a reasonable person. I like to think positive thoughts, but it just didn't create a positive impression. So, episode 1, Dirty Pretty Things. We're talking about things you shouldn't say, things you shouldn't do to impress someone when you first meet them. And more importantly, getting to the point, we're talking about gifts that are not appropriate to give to someone that you are just getting to know. Okie dokie. I'm going to put a pause on it right here and see if I can get some feed forward and some comments from some people and let me know what it is that you received that you thought was completely inappropriate. Dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty things, dirty, pretty